Welcome to the 6 Miles to Supper podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Cox, and I've lost over 80 pounds with intermittent fasting 6 days a week, eating whatever I wanted at my meals, taking a cheat day every Sunday, and walking 6 miles a day. And I'm here to help you on your weight loss journey. In today's episode, I want to talk about extended fasting. Now, first of all, I want to remind you I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist or anything like that. So if you do decide to do an extended fast, I would highly recommend that you talk to your doctor and make sure that you are medically okay to do an extended fast. To me, extended fasting should not be something you do to lose weight. My opinion is you should wait until you have all the weight off before you do any kind of extended fasting. And I have my reasons for that. I waited until I was down to a weight that I wanted to maintain at. I did not want to lose any more weight. And I'm really glad I did it that way. There were times when I was losing weight back in 2018, the early part of 2018. And I really was sometimes kind of tempted to say, well, maybe if I just did like a couple of days of fasting in a row, maybe that would like make the pounds go off quicker and then I could just maintain. But I didn't do that because I thought, to me, it felt like a shortcut. And I'm really glad that I did not try that method. The reason why I wanted to do an extended fast, even after I started maintaining, was because I was interested really in the cancer prevention benefits that I had heard about, the possible ones. I had originally heard about this from Dr. Dom D'Agostino, and it just intrigued me, the idea that an extended fast could basically provide cancer insurance. And since cancer runs in my family, I felt like this seemed like a relatively safe thing to do, something that I could do to maybe give myself a measure of prevention. So when I did my first 5-day fast, I've done 2 so far. And the first one I did towards the end of 2018, after I'd already started maintaining. That was in December of 2018. And then I did my second one in February of 2020, so just a couple of months ago. And so my methodology for fasting, during the first fast, I did water, black coffee, and potassium and salt in my water sometimes. That's all that I was allowed for 5 days. And then in my second fast, I did water with sometimes added potassium and added salt. And that was it. I did no coffee on the second one. And the reason I did it the first time, I thought, I really kind of felt like I needed something aside from water. Like I thought, the coffee would maybe be good. It would help me get through it. I wasn't really sure how hard a 5-day fast would be mentally. I knew mentally it would probably be the hard part. So I did the black coffee. I decided then, after doing the 5-day fast, I would have rather done it without the black coffee because I hate the taste of it. So it was really kind of miserable making myself drink that coffee because I knew that if I didn't drink coffee, I was going to get headaches because I get really bad caffeine headaches if my caffeine intake is at all different the next day. And I was determined not to take Tylenol during the fast or any kind of medication at all. So the first fast, I did the coffee. The second fast, I said, forget this. I'm not going to do the coffee. And first, let me talk about the weight loss that happened. So the first 5-day fast, I lost 10 pounds. Now I'm just going to use single day weights, like based on, what I started off at and then what I finished at. It was 10 pounds. And on the 5-day fast, I lost 13 pounds. That's the second one. During that time, during the first fast, I walked 6 miles every day. The second fast, I did take the first day off from walking because it was Sunday, and I've given myself Sundays off at the start of this year. And so with that, that sounds like a lot of weight loss, and it is actually a lot of weight loss. But within 2 weeks, that weight came back on. I want you to know that. So even though the weight was significant, the weight came right back on within 2 weeks. And And that is why I do not recommend that you try an extended fast. If it's one of those things where you're thinking, hey, if I did a 5-day fast, I could lose this last 10 pounds, and just be done with it. Not in my experience. And I think I kind of understand biologically why that is, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's talk about the benefits, though. The other benefits was that at the end of it all, it really clarified for me, how often I would think to myself, oh, I really need food right now. Like before I was doing these fasts, I would think, even like if I'm doing OMAD, 1 meal a day, and I would think, oh man, I really need this meal. Well, when you're doing a 5-day fast, you kind of realize, no, you'll be fine without it. You'll survive. And it really gives you a sense of self-control, especially around food, which is quite powerful, I would say, as a person who has traditionally had a lot of issues around controlling myself around food. And of course, the possible cancer benefits, that's to me a really, possibly a really big benefit. Although, how can you ever really know? I mean, I don't know that I will ever know if that helped or not. And then lastly, you certainly at the end of it feel a sense of accomplishment and really, to me, strength, like to be able to do something like that. And it is a big mental challenge more than anything else. It is a mental challenge. And at the end of it, when you finally sit down to break your fast after 5 days, you feel like you've done something. And I really do think you have done something. So there are some benefits to extended fasting. I personally plan to probably do at least one per year on average. But there are some downsides, aside from the rapid weight gain, which I think is certainly something to be aware of. As, again, somebody who has traditionally, throughout her whole life, had issues with weight, it is very, very difficult, even when you're expecting it, for the weight to see the scale go down 10 pounds and then tick back up 10 pounds within, that was probably within the course of 3 weeks, all said and done. That's what we're talking. And that is a significant challenge, mental challenge. And it's something that you should take seriously. In other words, like if you think to yourself right now, like, hey, that might make me like really kind of freak out and maybe do things that were unsustainable to try to keep it down at that lower number, then I would listen to yourself if you have that kind of reaction. Another thing is it's quite miserable to fast for 5 days. There's a lot of reasons for that misery. For me personally, the biggest source of misery was back pain. I experienced it in both fasts, and it was excruciating. And it was really excruciating in the last fast that I did. And I looked up information. Both times I looked up information about what is this? Like, why am I experiencing this back pain? And the best kind of hypothesis I found was that because your body is in this fasted state and it is basically like your immune system is kind of regenerating itself. That's the theory. Again, you can check out Dr. Dom D'Agostino for more information about the technical side of all this, because I am not a scientist. But basically, the theory is your immune system is regenerating. And so the back pain in your lower back like that, there's a very similar back pain that happens. And I believe Dr. Jason Fung also talks about this particular kind of theory that the back pain is because it's very similar to the back pain that chemo patients feel because they are given medication to basically help their immune system build back up and produce more white blood cells. So it could be that's because that is like in your hip bones, I believe, is where a lot of bone marrow is produced. So now whether that's actually what caused my back pain or not, I don't know. I just know that I definitely felt it. And because of that horrible pain and because, you're not eating, my sleep was especially terrible during this last fast. Now, in the first 5-day fast, I didn't have very much trouble sleeping. I had like one day where it was pretty bad, but the rest of the time it was pretty easy. But this second 5-day fast was really, really difficult because my back was hurting so bad. I really couldn't get in a comfortable spot. And we had no electricity. We were camping because we're full-time RVers. We were boondocking in a place. So we had no electricity either. So that kind of compounded things, I think. But still, I did not get good sleep, which makes your days feel really long. And when you're doing an extended fast, you have nothing really to break up the day. And it feels like a very long day anyway. So adding to that, this sense of I'm exhausted, plus, I'm fasting, it was very, very mentally difficult. And I wasn't taking, Tylenol to take the edge off of pain. I also had headaches. I believe I had one headache in the first 5-day fast, but then this last fast, I had a very bad headache. And I had headaches throughout the entire thing. So this was not a fun time. And of course, I missed the fellowship of eating with my family. Now, I did sit down because my kids request that when I'm doing these fasts, that I do sit down and eat supper. That I sit with them as they eat supper, I should say, which I'm happy to accommodate that request. And it's difficult to just sit there and watch them eat and to just, not eat while they're eating. Not so much because of the hunger, because it actually, you'd be surprised how little hunger you do feel after the first day or so. The hunger is not the issue. The issue is all the other misery that you're feeling. And then, of course, once you actually do break the fast and you start to regain the weight, that is a thing. Again, it's difficult to see the scale ticking back up the other way. And I believe, and this is just my own observations of myself, but it seemed to me that I experienced an increased hunger after the fast was over. It was like my body was compensating for that weight that it had rapidly lost, and that it was, trying to put the weight back on, which makes sense to me because, the hypothalamus is a very important part of your brain. It controls your hunger and your appetite and also emotions, which I think is kind of interesting. But anyway, your hypothalamus is trying to keep you alive, basically. And your body does not like to lose weight fast. It senses, wait, something's wrong because it wants you to stay about where you're at all the time. Like your body doesn't like major shocks to its system. It's trying to keep you alive for as long as possible. And, your fat stores are a thing that protects you from starvation, so it's trying to keep you in balance. It's trying to keep you where you're at. So I think it makes perfect sense that after an extended fast like that, you do experience this increased kind of hunger. And this is, of course, kind of tricky because if you're just obeying your hunger, and that's what I always advocate for, is, you should stop eating when you're full, not like trying to cut your meals down really small or anything, just eat until you're full and then stop. Because of that, I do obey my hunger, then, the weight comes right back on. I say that all to just tell you, that is something to expect if you ever do experiment with extended fasting. Now, I want to compare extended fasting to intermittent fasting because they're very different in some very important ways. The first one is that intermittent fasting, on the other hand, feels very easy if you take it gradually and you're not too restrictive with yourself. It can be something that you practice and it feels very easy and you feel good while you're doing it. You have lots of energy. You aren't experiencing negative symptoms, not having any headaches. You're not having fatigue, and you're not feeling nauseous like you might if you are doing an extended fast, which I did have some nausea the first day. And, intermittent fasting is sustainable for years and years and years. There are people who have been doing this for decades and they're perfectly healthy. So, you can't do an extended fast for, very long because eventually, you do have to eat. And it's not very sustainable because the weight does come back on so quickly. Intermittent fasting can easily fit into your life, whereas extended fasting is a difficult thing to fit in your life. For me, I'm a mom with 3 kids, and a husband, and it's really hard to kind of figure out a time where a 5-day fast will fit in without disrupting things too much. So it doesn't fit that well in life. And with intermittent fasting, you can have plenty of fellowship. A lot of people who are doing intermittent fasting are eating 2 meals a day. I personally usually do OMAD, 1 meal a day. But even that gives me that opportunity every single day to sit down and share a meal with my family. And intermittent fasting provides slow and steady weight loss. And the weight loss stays off. Once, as you're going along, it's not these huge drops in weight and then huge regains. It's just, you're just dropping steadily along. And, lastly, you do get that block of time every day where you're fasting. And during that time, you can be very productive and you can do all those things that you need to do, but it doesn't take it to an unhealthy extent where you have no breaks in your day and you're just kind of like just not doing anything to break up your day or to have, a time to sit down and replenish your body. So for those reasons, I would really, encourage you right now, if you have been thinking about an extended fast, just wait until you're down at a weight that you want to be at, and just kind of accept the fact that you probably will gain everything from an extended fast back. And then do it if you're wanting to do it for the right reasons. I would never do an extended fast to just drop weight quickly. I hope that by me sharing these experiences with you, it can help, better mentally prepare you if you ever do undertake an extended fast. And maybe it will give you some things to think about when you're considering it, whether you should do one or not. Again, I plan on doing probably one a year. But even that, it's going to be a challenge, I think. So I hope this episode has helped you, and I'll see you in the next one. Do you want to lose the weight without getting rid of the foods you love and that you'll go back to eating again anyway? My book, The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, teaches you how to practice intermittent fasting so that you lose the weight sustainably and keep it off for good. You can get the audiobook read by me for free when you sign up for your 30-day trial of Audible. The link is in the show notes. And if you've gotten value from this podcast and you'd like to let other people know about it, it would be great if you could leave a review on either iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks.